You ever notice how timing decides everything? Not talent, not luck, not even effort. Timing. A word said too late becomes useless. A warning ignored because you thought you had time turns into regret. People always think they can wait, that life will politely knock twice, that the truth will sit there waiting until they feel ready. But it doesn't. It slips by, it rots, it hardens. And when you finally realize what you should have done, it's too late to fix it. That's why urgency matters. That's why listening early matters. Because the moment you hear something that burns, that stings, that feels uncomfortable, that's the very moment it was meant for you. Ignore it, and you're already digging your own grave. Opportunities don't wait, warnings don't wait, and life doesn't wait. The clock is laughing at you while you hesitate, because it knows hesitation kills more dreams than failure ever could. Delay is the sweetest poison you'll ever drink. It doesn't burn on the way down. It doesn't sting. It tastes smooth, harmless, almost comforting. That's why it works so well. That's why most never see it for what it really is. You keep telling yourself, I'll get to it tomorrow. I'll start when I feel ready. I'll move when the time is right. And each time you sip from that glass, you feel safe, protected, as though nothing's slipping away. But while you're busy convincing yourself, the poison is spreading. The clock is laughing, and your chance is rotting in silence. You think you're escaping pain, but you're only trading today for a bigger pain tomorrow. Delay has this beautiful trick. It makes you feel in control. You say, I'm choosing to wait, I'm planning, I'm preparing. Lies dressed up in pretty words. Because deep down, you're afraid. Afraid of failing, afraid of being judged. Afraid of seeing yourself for what you really are when you finally try. So, you wrap that fear in a soft blanket called patience. But it's not patience. It's paralysis. You think you're waiting for the right time, but the right time never comes. The world doesn't care about your calendar. It doesn't bend for your excuses. It moves forward. And it doesn't look back to see if you're still standing there. You've been told delay is harmless. That waiting builds strength. That maybe tomorrow you'll be more ready than you are now. That's the illusion. Delay doesn't make you stronger. It makes you softer, weaker, easier to break. Muscles rot when they aren't used. Hearts shrink when they aren't tested. Minds rust when they aren't challenged. Delay takes the fire out of your chest, replaces it with ashes, and whispers that it's warmth. You won't even realize how much it has stolen until it's too late. Until you look back and see how much of your life has been chewed up by hesitation disguised as comfort. The sweetest part of this poison is the story you tell yourself. You make it sound noble, rational. I don't want to rush things. I want to think this through. I want to wait for the perfect moment. Oh, the perfect moment. That fantasy that never arrives. The truth is, you're not waiting for perfection. You're waiting for courage to magically appear, and it never does. Courage doesn't show up with time. It shows up when you step into the storm. But you keep drinking the lie, and with every sip, your edge dulls, your will fades, and the chance that once felt so alive starts slipping into the grave. Think about how many people had dreams that never saw daylight because they chose delay over action. They thought they had more time. They thought opportunity was loyal. But time is cruel, and opportunity is faithless. It doesn't wait. It doesn't hold your hand while you hesitate. It moves to the one who is ready to move. Even if that person isn't the smartest, even if they're not the most talented, even if they're trembling, action outruns delay every single time. And the funniest thing, the ones who delay often believe they're avoiding risk. They think waiting means safety. But delay is the biggest risk of all, because while you're waiting for the right conditions, the world is changing. Doors are closing. People are moving forward, and soon you're left in the same place. But the game has passed you by. That's the danger you never see until it's too late. You don't realize the poison has killed you until you're already on the floor, choking on the taste you once thought was sweet. Delay seduces you with the promise of comfort, but it robs you of the very thing you crave most: life, growth, meaning. You won't even remember the excuses you made, but you'll feel the weight of the moments you let slip away. And the bitter part, the poison doesn't even need to be forced on you. You drink it willingly. You pour the glass, you raise it to your lips, and you smile, convincing yourself it's harmless. That's the trick. That's how it wins. Every second you waste is a second stolen from your future. It sounds dramatic, doesn't it? But that's the reality you don't want to face. Seconds aren't just numbers on a clock. They're little bricks of your life. Every time one slips away unused, it doesn't come back. It doesn't recycle. It doesn't ask if you'd like another chance. It's gone, buried, and it takes a piece of you with it. People pretend time is endless, that there's always tomorrow, always next week, always another chance. But those who think like that end up drowning in their own delays, watching from the sidelines as the world passes them by. Wasting time feels innocent. It feels small, like it doesn't matter. You scroll, you procrastinate, you overthink, and in the moment, it feels like nothing is being lost. But that's the trick, isn't it? That's how time steals from you. Not in one big robbery, but in tiny little thefts. A minute here, an hour there, and before you know it, years are gone. You blink, and the dream you once carried so brightly has dimmed into nothing more than a memory of what could have been. That's the cruelest part. Wasted time doesn't announce itself. It doesn't scream. It just dissolves quietly while you're distracted. You want to believe that you're in control, that you can afford to waste today because tomorrow you'll get serious. But tomorrow isn't promised. Tomorrow is the biggest lie humans ever told themselves. Tomorrow has buried more dreams than failure ever has. Tomorrow makes you comfortable with inaction. It makes you trust in a future that isn't guaranteed. And when the future finally arrives, you'll realize it's not the one you wanted. Because the one you wanted required action back when you thought you had time to spare. The seconds you lose aren't neutral. They're expensive. They could have been invested into growth, into change, into building something that lasts. Instead, they slip away like coins tossed into a fire, vanishing before your eyes. And once they're gone, there's no bank, no vault, no refund. Time is the most ruthless thief because it takes and never gives back. And yet, people guard their money, their possessions, their pride, but they leave the door wide open for time to rob them blind. Think about it. How many times have you said, "I'll start later," or "I'll do it when I feel ready"? Those phrases are nothing but invitations for time to take another bite out of your future. You don't notice the bite marks at first, but they're there. And the more you waste, the more you starve the version of yourself you're supposed to become. That version is out there, waiting, but every second you waste makes it harder for them to exist. You're killing your future self with inaction, suffocating them under the weight of your hesitation. And here's the cruel irony. When you finally wake up and decide to act, you'll regret the time you wasted more than the mistakes you made. Mistakes at least teach you something. They move you forward, they shape you. Wasted time teaches you nothing, leaves you empty, and haunts you with silence. It's the one regret that burns the longest, because there's no fixing it. You can recover from loss, from failure, from rejection, but you can't recover the seconds you've thrown away. They're the only currency that never returns once it's spent. Every second is a choice. You either invest it in building the future you want, or you donate it to the graveyard of wasted moments. That graveyard is overflowing with dreams that never saw daylight, with plans that never left the paper, with voices that never spoke up. And every second you waste, you're adding another tombstone to it, carving your name into the list of people who almost lived, almost tried, almost became. That's the theft that should terrify you, not failure, not judgment, but the slow, silent robbery of your own future while you look the other way. Truth whispers once, but regret screams forever. That's the twisted little game life plays with you. The truth is quiet, subtle, easy to miss. It doesn't shove itself into your face. It doesn't shout over the noise. It simply leans in and whispers when the room goes still. But you don't listen, do you? You drown it out with excuses. You cover it up with distractions. You silence it with comfort. You hear that whisper in your gut, in your chest, in those restless nights when you can't sleep, but instead of leaning closer, you turn the other way. You tell yourself, "Not now, I'll deal with it later." And later becomes never, until regret finds you and it doesn't whisper, it roars. The truth isn't loud because it doesn't need to be. It speaks once, and that's enough. But regret has a way of clawing at your ribs, gnawing at your insides, laughing in your ear every single day. Regret doesn't leave you alone. It doesn't let you rest. You'll be brushing your teeth, and regret will remind you of the chances you ignored. You'll be walking down the street, and regret will drag you back to the moment you stayed silent when you should have spoken. Truth is light, but regret is heavy. And once it settles on you, it's not easy to shake off. You've felt that whisper before. Maybe it told you to act, to take a risk, to walk away, to hold on, to change direction. It wasn't a thunderstorm, it was a spark. And what did you do? You smothered it. You let fear pour water on it. You said, "What if I fail? What if I get hurt? What if it doesn't work out?" And so the whisper faded. But here's the problem. Truth doesn't chase you. It gives you one clean chance. And if you don't catch it, you lose it. And that's when regret steps in, patient, relentless, waiting to collect what's owed. Regret doesn't come all at once. It grows. It starts as a small itch, a passing thought. Maybe I should have. Then it comes back the next day, louder, heavier. Before long, it's no longer a thought. It's a shadow that follows you everywhere. You can try to outrun it, bury it under distractions, numb it with noise, but it always finds you. Regret has infinite patience. It'll wait until you're quiet, until the lights are off, until the world is asleep, and then it will sit with you, reminding you of the truth you ignored. That's when it screams. And the scream doesn't fade. It's not a burst of pain. It's a constant echo. It keeps telling you what you could have been, what you should have done, what you would have had if you'd only listened. That's the punishment. Not just the loss of opportunity, but the constant replay of it in your mind. Over and over again, like a broken record that never stops spinning. That's what truth saves you from if you listen. And that's what regret condemns you to if you don't. People think regret is avoidable. They tell themselves, "I'll be fine. I'll move on." But regret isn't something you move on from. It's something that lives with you. You can cover it up with smiles, bury it under achievements, but deep down, you know. You know what you ignored, what you abandoned, what you sacrificed for comfort. And every time life tests you again, regret shows up to remind you that you failed once, that you chose silence over courage. It turns into a parasite that feeds on your confidence, making you smaller each day. The difference between truth and regret is simple. Truth whispers once, soft, fleeting, easy to miss. Regret screams forever, loud, merciless, impossible to escape. You don't get to choose whether you hear a voice. You only choose which one. And the one you choose will either free you or chain you for the rest of your life. The moment you feel uncomfortable is the moment you're supposed to act. Strange, isn't it? How the body reacts when you're about to step into something real. Your chest tightens, your palms sweat, your breath stumbles a little. That's not weakness. It's the signal. That's the alarm bell telling you this is the edge. This is the place where change waits. But most people, when they feel that discomfort, they back off. They retreat into safety, into the soft little bubble of routine. They convince themselves that the discomfort means stop, when in truth, it's the exact opposite. Discomfort means you're standing at the door, and the only way through is to push it open. Comfort is the trickster. It's warm, it's familiar, it makes you feel secure, but it kills your fire. Nothing grows in comfort. Nothing sharpens in comfort. Comfort makes you believe you're fine, when really you're shrinking. That tiny edge of discomfort, that's life trying to shake you awake. It's your body's way of saying, this matters. But what do people do? They run from it, numb it, bury it under excuses. They say, I'll try later. When I feel more confident, when it doesn't scare me as much. But that later never comes. Confidence doesn't come before action. It comes after. The only way to kill fear is to step into it. Think about it. When you were a child, everything was uncomfortable at first. Walking, speaking, learning. You stumbled, you cried, you fell, but you pushed through, and that discomfort turned into strength. Somewhere along the way, you forgot that. You grew addicted to ease. You started believing discomfort was danger instead of direction. But danger doesn't come from acting. It comes from staying still. Staying still is how opportunities rot, how dreams collapse, how potential dies. Discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the invitation. When you feel that knot in your stomach, that voice in your head saying, this is too much, that's the exact moment you have to move. Because if you don't, you train yourself to retreat every time things get hard. You build a habit of surrender, of shrinking, of running. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you've built a life of avoidance. A life designed not to grow but to hide. And hiding doesn't protect you. It only starves you. Discomfort is proof you're alive. It's proof you're stretching, reaching, breaking past the limits you've chained yourself to. Growth doesn't come wrapped in peace. It comes dressed as chaos. It comes with shaking hands and restless nights and a racing heart. That's the cost of change. That's the currency you pay for becoming more than you were yesterday. And the ones who learn to lean into that feeling, to step forward when every nerve screams to step back, they're the ones who transform. They're the ones who take the world, bend it, and make it their own. But here's the thing: discomfort doesn't last. It feels endless when you're in it, but it's fleeting. Push through, and suddenly it's gone, replaced by strength, by clarity, by momentum. You'll look back and wonder why you wasted so much time being afraid of something so temporary. Pain passes, fear fades, but regret doesn't. Regret lingers forever. The discomfort you dodged today will come back tomorrow, stronger, heavier, uglier. The only way to silence it is to face it now. So when that moment hits, when you feel the weight pressing down, when your instincts tell you to run, that's the sign. Not to retreat, but to advance. Not to hide, but to break through. Because that exact moment is the crack in the wall, the opening in the cage. And if you don't step through it, the door slams shut, and you'll be left on the wrong side, wondering what would have happened if you just dared to move. Time doesn't forgive hesitation. It buries it. People think time is some patient old friend, willing to wait until you're ready, until you feel strong enough, until you finally gather the courage to step forward. But that's the lie you tell yourself, so you can stay comfortable. Time doesn't wait. It doesn't pause. It doesn't care about your excuses. It just keeps moving, relentless, silent, and merciless, while you hesitate, while you debate, while you stall. Time is shoveling dirt over the opportunities you've left untouched. You think hesitation is harmless, but it's a slow funeral, and the body being buried is your potential. Hesitation feels safe. It feels like you're protecting yourself from mistakes, from pain, from embarrassment. You say, I just need to think it over. I just need more clarity. I just need to be sure. But that's hesitation dressing itself up as wisdom. In reality, it's fear. Fear of failing. Fear of being seen. Fear of losing what little control you think you have. And while you hesitate, the moment slips away. Someone else takes the chance. Someone else makes the move. Someone else steps into the space that was meant for you. And time doesn't give it back. Time doesn't say, oh, you hesitated. Let me hold this door open for you. No, the door closes, the chance dies, and the ground above it hardens. The danger of hesitation is that it disguises itself as caution. It makes you believe you're being smart by waiting. But think about it. When has waiting ever given you more courage? When has waiting ever made the fear smaller? Fear doesn't shrink with time, it grows. Every day you hesitate, it digs in deeper, builds stronger walls, wraps tighter chains around your will. You're not buying yourself safety. You're building yourself a prison. And soon, hesitation becomes the default. You stop leaping, you stop trying, you stop living. You turn into a spectator in your own story, watching others fight battles you were meant to fight. Time is brutal because it doesn't pause for your uncertainty. While you're busy hesitating, time is handing opportunities to the bold, rewarding the reckless, crowning the ones who dared to move, even when they weren't ready. Life doesn't care if you have a perfect plan. Life rewards those who step into the fire, even if they stumble, even if they burn. Because hesitation might protect you from failure today, but it guarantees regret tomorrow, and regret is far heavier than failure. You can recover from a fall, but you can't recover the years you spent standing still. Picture hesitation as a thief, not the kind that breaks in loudly and snatches everything at once, but the kind that steals quietly, piece by piece. One decision today, another tomorrow, another the week after. Before long, you don't notice how much is missing until one day you wake up and realize your time, your chances, your strength, all gone. And who do you blame? Not the thief, because the thief was always you. You let hesitation rob you while you pretended it was keeping you safe. And here's the part most people never see. Hesitation doesn't just bury opportunities, it buries you alive inside your own life. You keep breathing, but you're not living. You keep moving, but you're not progressing. You build a coffin of what-ifs and some days and maybe laters, and then you climb inside, thinking you'll climb back out when the time is right. But time doesn't forgive. Time piles on dirt day after day, until the weight is too heavy, until the light is too faint, until the world has moved on without you. You have two enemies, fear and time. Fear you can fight. Fear can be beaten with action, with courage, with defiance. But time cannot be fought. You cannot slow it. You cannot negotiate with it. You cannot bribe it. The only way to stand against time is to move before it buries what hesitation leaves behind. Early listeners write history. Late ones read obituaries. That's how the world works, and it's uglier than anyone wants to admit. The ones who lean in when the truth is still a whisper, when the signs are faint, when the message is uncomfortable. Those are the ones who carve their names into time. They move before the crowd. They act while everyone else is still doubting, still laughing, still waiting for proof. And because they act early, they shape the game. They become the story others talk about. But the late ones, the hesitant ones, the ones who wait until it's obvious, until it's safe, until the risk is gone, they don't get to write history. They get to read the headlines about the people who dared before them, and eventually, they get to read their own quiet obituaries, stories no one remembers, names no one repeats. The difference is so small, but it changes everything. The early listener isn't necessarily smarter or stronger, just braver. Brave enough to trust the whisper instead of waiting for the scream. Brave enough to step forward when everyone else stays seated. Brave enough to risk being wrong because they know being late is worse. The world punishes hesitation more than it punishes failure. Fail early, and you learn. You adapt, you rise again. Act late, and you're forgotten. The ground swallows you without even a ripple. Think about how history remembers people. It doesn't remember the ones who waited for perfect conditions, who held back until the crowd agreed. It remembers the ones who moved when the crowd mocked them, when the world told them they were insane, when the voices said, "Not yet." They didn't wait for proof. They became the proof. They didn't wait for the path. They carved the path with their own hands, their own pain, their own blood if they had to. That's the price of being earlied. You bleed first. But that's also the reward. You lead first. The late listener, though, they don't pay with blood. They pay with silence. They pay with invisibility. They sit in the back row, nodding their heads, applauding the ones who dared, wishing they'd moved sooner, wishing they'd trusted the whisper. They tell themselves, "I knew it all along. I felt it too." But the truth is, feeling doesn't matter if you didn't act. Knowing doesn't matter if you didn't move. The whisper came to them too, but they chose safety. And safety has no place in history books. Safety has no monuments, no legacies, no echoes. Safety writes obituaries, and even those are forgotten after the dirt settles.